Hey boys, welcome back to the channel where we're going to have a little bit more info on the upcoming Rugby League title releasing this year. Rugby League Live 5, Rugby League 26, whatever it's going to be called. I still think it's going to be Rugby League 26, but we'll see in due process. Big shout out to Andy Astle. Andy Astle on Twitter. He shared this with me and a couple other people. He tagged Odd1X and Mr. Luke as well. But there's been a few obviously screenshots and whatnot from a few Super League clubs of getting face scanned, which is in and of itself is great news. Just the fact that it'll be the first time that any English Super League players will be properly scanned into the Rugby League game. And I mean, fair enough. Like, obviously, the money and the time for Big Ant Studios in the past to go over there and get it all done would be a little bit unrealistic for what Rugby League gaming was back then. And also, Big Ant Studios was a very small company, I guess, as well. So, great to see. I mean, they've put a lot of time and effort, money into the technology with this. I still think it's one of the best in sporting, like the customer creation as well. And that's obviously been a big part of Big Ant Studios sporting titles, which have allowed us to continually update players and this and that. But the player scanning is fantastic, and it just adds depth. It'll be great news for Super League fans, but also people like me that obviously NRL, but it's good to have the English players be scanned as well. It'll just create more depth. But we'll have a listen to the video. They talk about some interesting stuff with the scanning and a couple of little hints for the release date as well, which is fairly interesting as well. Let's have a quick listen.
What's this for?
For Rugby League.
Oh, is it? Oh, cool.
Video game.
When's that coming out?
July.
Yeah, basically.
So straight off the rip, they say July, and you'll see a couple of other points in this video. They also say July, which is interesting because obviously I put the video up, working out fucking the little inside comment from Ross that I thought it might be June, but June, July, it's pointing to a June, July release date, or at least I want to say off rip again, I wouldn't get your hopes up that the game will release in June/July, but I would think that is definitely what they're aiming towards, because for some reason I thought Rugby League Live 4 release like late in the year. I thought like other Rugby League games it released late in the year, like September, October, but apparently it didn't. It released in July, which it makes sense. Like, that will be sort of what they're aiming towards. It's a great time of year to release, so I think they're definitely pushing for that. But I wouldn't. Again, games get delayed, this and that. But I guess in saying that, games nowadays very often come out not overly finished. I mean, you look at Rugby 25. That's come out in obviously beta, and they're updating it constantly, which I know people will be disappointed by if that happens with Rugby League, but at the end of the day, if they release a beta and we're able to play it and give feedback and they can update it over time, that would be fantastic. But we'll see if that happens. We'll see. Hopefully, I mean, it'd be great if the game was just good to go, but I'm sure there'll be updates and whatnot.
Basically, we're just taking photos of all the players at different angles, so we could then take it back to our studio back in Melbourne and make a 3D model out of it, and then we can use that model to get into our game that we're developing, Rugby League, then that.
It's funny. I will say it's funny how they're not saying the name. They keep saying Rugby League, the Rugby League game. I don't know. It's weird to me. I don't know why they just don't. I don't know why they're not announcing what the game's called. Like, surely they know what it's going to be called. I don't know. It's a little bit of a funny one to me. But obviously they're just discussing how they're sort of doing the process here, which is good for obviously the the depth of just career mode, Super League, NRL will obviously have all that as well. It'd be interesting to see if they... I wouldn't expect it, but it'd be cool if they did it for like Queensland Cup and like New South Wales Cup as well. I think that's probably a little bit unrealistic that they would be able to do that many players, but it would definitely... It would add a lot, but I wouldn't expect that. I definitely wouldn't expect like lower tier competitions to also be face scanned in. But we can dream. We can dream if clubs like travelled to them, maybe. But yeah, it's a bit unrealistic that they would spend that much time travelling to the lower tier cons. But you never know.
That way we'll get the likeness one-to-one with the player. And yeah, that's pretty much the basics of what we're doing here.
Before you run off, man, just stand right up against the wall, hands by your side. Yeah. Very neutral. Look at the shape of your body. 1, 2, 3. Done.
Thanks,
Me, by taking that shot of their body, the artist team, the character team will then basically just shape their body to make it so they're not fat if they're skinny, or skinny if they're fat, or muscly. And then also, like, we have to draw every bit of hair. If we use the hair that they're sitting in a chair and we get, like you just saw on my phone.
3, 2, 1.
So this is me sitting in the chair doing exactly the same thing the boys are doing. And then we have a program which is on the computer which turns you into a 3D model or 3D scan, and then makes you essentially a player but without being in game. It's just you.
I mean, straight off rip, that looks great. I mean, just the fact they have like that, you can see it straight up on like the mobile. They still have the program on that, and then they send back to Melbourne to add the player model. Like they said, the artist has to come in and sort of make the model from the photo. So obviously you don't scan. They scan the faces and the hair and all that, but they don't scan the player model, which is I have no idea about like game design and stuff like that. But it's interesting that they can't like scan the player model into the game. They sort of have to still draw it up. But I guess for animations and the way they move, it makes more sense for that. I mean, the player models are one thing that Rugby League could definitely improve upon. I talked about it in the wishlist video that I think it's good. Like, if you go back, you can go back to Rugby League Live 3, the player models were just all big, bulky blocks. Like, they weren't great. Rugby League Live 4 improved a lot. Like, small players look small, big players look big. But it still lacked. It definitely still lacked. Like, most players looked... On the field, there wasn't too much of a massive difference unless you had like a really small player and a massive prop next to each other. So I think they could definitely improve that. But it's still good. Like, it's still good in Rugby League Live 4 if you look up close. The player models are pretty solid. So I'm expecting just an improvement on that. But yeah, it's awesome to see, like, just... I mean... I don't know if it's going to look as, like, the photo he's got here. Like, the hair model looks fantastic. Like you said, he's got to draw, like, every individual strand of hair. The hair also, I mean, it's one of those ones. The hair, like, I feel like hair in, like, all video games is always a bit, like, it's just tricky. It just seems very hard to get right. They always look sometimes like 2D modelish, just pasted on. But, I mean, the photo here he's using looks very good, and it would be cool if there was a bit more physics to the hair, like the mullet flowing and stuff, if they're able to do that, and just have more. I mean, more hairstyles, all that's obviously great. Like, players have some crazy hairdos, so it's gonna be interesting. Like like all the players getting scanned. Some of the fucking hairstyles of players are a bit out there for what they were in like 2017. So there's going to be some wild ones, but very exciting stuff here.
Become a 3D model,
Right.
and then that.
I mean, it looks like genuinely looks really good. I don't know if that's going to be one-to-one like what it'll look like in game, but looks very realistic. The hair looks good. Mustache. Looks very, very, very good,
sent to
honestly.
the artist team, the character team, and then they do some fine tuning of smoothing the skin and creating the hair, because the hair in game is like.
This man needs his
Can you sort this out for me?
Before you run off, mate, I just need a picture of your body shape. So
Okay.
It doesn't move with the wind, so we need it to, like, you know, actually look like it's
Right.
like it's real. So
Every player.
Okay, so he sort of has confirmed that it doesn't move with the wind, which would have been cool. I'm not gonna lie, that would be cool if they could, but I mean that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Probably a little bit unrealistic.
Player in the league.
every player gets every single strand of hair to move, except their facial hair.
Yeah.
Do you draw the facial hair in?
If they have like really big beards, sweet. They'll just stand up
You can't complain about mine now.
Oh, wait. Just lean the tiniest bit forwards. Like lean your torso.
Oh, sorry. Sit up a bit more.
That's it. Back a little bit. Good now? Forwards a centimetre, just like the tiniest touch. Yeah, that's good. That's cool. Alright, we'll do 2 shots now. First one. Try best not to smile, so keep your mouth closed.
I can't start off.
No, all good. All good. 3, 2, 1.
My eyes are killing.
Rest your eyes if you need.
Can't start
Do
off.
one more and then that'll be it.
Eyes are my best feature, right?
Last one now. 3, 2, 1.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers, man.
Out in July. PlayStation 1. Do we get a copy?
So again, they drop a little hint that they told him out in July, and we'll hear it again as well. Did he say PlayStation 1?
Out in July. PlayStation 1. Do we get a copy?
It better not be on PlayStation 1.
Anymore, but I hope I'm still up around it. Wow.
Yeah,
Could have done with a shave and a fade, couldn't I? That's quick. We never did this last time.
I was about to ask, have you done this before?
No.
No.
I hadn't done it before. I had to go to Trinity Walk and do the launch of it for Wakefield as well, and I had like a 60 rating or something like that stood there.
Yeah, that's actually a good point he brings up. Like, yeah, it'll be the first time for scanning and stuff, but also just attributes. I think like a lot of people were disappointed with the Super League stats. Like I mean, and again, fair enough. Like it's hard for an Australian company back then to really get proper ratings for a lot of players. Like they wouldn't even know like half the players, like if we're being genuine. And I think we can all agree that probably the average should be lower than the NRL, but there are a lot of like very, very low ratings for professional players, so hopefully that improves, and again it'll just make the product better overall.
I was just kind of like,
Breakfast.
pretty much breakfast.
Yeah.
So I used to have porridge, and I got a bit bored of it, so now
Players and start.
I think it'll be around July, but I don't quote me on that because yeah.
We're quoting you July. Thank you. I mean, like I said, June, July, bro. I mean, it just makes sense that would be the time they're looking for. So
I'm not 100% certain with the release date, but yeah, I think it's July.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look out for it.
Yeah.
We've seen how it's been, well, part of how it's been made anyway. I know,
Behind the scenes access.
Yeah.
that pretty much wraps up. So obviously, great news with the scanning of Super League players. The another hint at the release date. I'm a little surprised we haven't got like a proper announcement yet from Ross. He keeps fucking hinting that something's coming soon. So it's gonna be just around the corner. But I mean, they drop it a couple of times, like the release date. Clearly that's what they're looking towards. So again, I wouldn't get your hopes up necessarily, but that's definitely what they're pushing towards for a release date, which again makes sense. It's during Origin, the height of the NRL season. It makes sense. So that pretty much wraps up this little bit of info. Not much else to really discuss. We'll obviously, I'll keep, I was wondering if I was going to make a video discussing this, but I thought it was interesting to let the English Super League fans know as well. If they hadn't seen this, obviously it's not it's not sort of out in the massive public. So yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying the content. We'll obviously be bringing any info I can. I'll honestly, I've been thinking about doing another video, like a wishlist part 2, sort of discussing your guys' comments. So I saw a lot of great comments from people in that first video discussing ideas and points. So I'll probably make a video going through comments and giving my thoughts on that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like and comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.